Уважаеми колеги, след достатъчно приемливата обедна почивка, нека да се ориентираме към следобедните теми, които са заложени в днешното обсъждане. Ще започнем с противодействие на незаконното съдържание онлайн и оптимизиране на киберсигурността, Центърът за борба с киберпрестъпленията на Европол и звеното на Европейския съюз за сигнализиране за незаконно съдържание в интернет. Във време, когато цифровизацията все повече навлиза в ежедневието на хората, когато дигиталната свързаност е жизнено важна, ние сме свидетели на все повече и нови предизвикателства, свързани с онлайн пространството. Тези предизвикателства в сектор сигурност не познават териториални граници и създават нови възможности за генерирането на заплахи за нашата сигурност. За мен е удоволствие, че с нас днес са двама еврокомисари, които отговарят за ресора. За мен е удоволствие да представя двамата еврокомисари Мария Габриел и господин Кинг, след което ще дадем думата и на директора на Европол Роб Wainwright. Давам думата на Мария Габриел. Заповядай.
Благодаря, господин Цветанов. Добър ден на всички. За мен е изключително удоволствие да взема думата днес по повод втората среща на съвместната парламентарна група за контрол на Европол, заседаваща в София. Най-напред в този панел ще обсъдим от една страна борбата с незаконното съдържание, а от друга киберсигурността. Тези теми, разбира се, са и неделимо свързани. Затова бих обобщила политиката на Европейската комисия в тези две области с едно просто изречение. Да направим интернет сигурно и надежно място за европейските граждани. Тези две области междувременно са изключително сложни и се развиват изключително бързо. Затова още от сега всяко ефикасно решение трябва да се основава на сътрудничество и участие на всички заинтересовани страни. И днешната среща е един блестящ пример за това. Сега ми позволете да опиша мерките на комисията по тези отделни въпроси. Най-напред, що се отнася до борбата с незаконното съдържание. На 1 март Европейската комисия публикува препоръка за борбата с незаконното съдържание онлайн. Това беше наша първа допълнителна стъпка в тази борба. Допълнителна и първа, защото припомням, че през септември 2017 година Европейската комисия публикувахме съобщение за борбата с незаконното съдържание. Това беше много ясен първи сигнал от страна на комисията. Тогава изразихме ясно своите очаквания. Да, имаме диалози, основани на доброволна основа, имаме и изключително добри резултати, основно реферирайки към EU интернет форум или за така наречения Code of Conduct, но днес ние искаме платформите да реагират по-бързо и по-ефикасно. Все още голяма част от незаконното съдържание остава онлайн повече от 24 часа. А знаем, че за голямата част от това незаконно съдържание най-голямото въздействие е буквално в първите час-два на публикация. Затова ние искахме също да кажем на платформите. Това, което е незаконно извън мрежата, остава незаконно и вътре в нея. Когато говорим за незаконно съдържание, имаме много ясна дефиниция на ниво Европейски съюз в европейското право. Тук говорим за едно от най-жестоките престъпления, които съществуват въобще, именно сексуалната експлоатация на деца. Говорим за подбудителството към тероризъм, за езика на омразата, за контрабандните стоки. Затова днес от страна на Европейската комисия не можем да приемем, че има ситуация, в която такова съдържание използва новите технологии, използва интернет за вредни цели. Защото целта ни е да защитим гражданите. В центъра на всяко едно от нашите предложения се намира именно защитата на сигурността на гражданите. Затова нека да споделя няколко подробности. Нашето предложение е изключително балансирано. Най-напред, от една страна, за първи път препоръката казва на точен юридически език какви са процедурите за докладване и предприемане на действия. Освен това, имаме и нови елементи, които си струва да бъдат подчертани. За първи път сме дефинирали понятието доверени податели на сигнали. Знаеме, терминът на английски е Trusted Flaggers. Защото платформите не могат и не може да имат за цел монопол върху това да определят кое е позволено от закона и кое не. Затова системата от доверени податели на сигнали позволява ползотворно трета страна с определена експертиза да идентифицира и да съобщава на платформите за незаконно съдържание. Доверените податели на сигнали могат да бъдат правоприлагащи органи или неправителствени организации, специализирали се в борбата с престъпленията, мотивирани от омраза или тероризъм. В началото на февруари организирахме среща в Брюксел с доверените податели на сигнали, за да проучим заедно как бихме могли да подобрим сегашната система. Искам да благодаря на отдела, отговарящ за интернет в Европол, за неговото участие в срещата, както и за съдържателния принос към дискусията. Аз ще споделя от тази среща две впечатления. Това беше първата среща, на която доверените податели на сигнали в страните членки се срещат. За първи път тези, които работят върху пропагандата за тероризъм, срещат тези, които премахват незаконно съдържание, свързано с експлоатация на деца. Несъмнено тук можем да поставим темата за създаване на неформална европейска мрежа и засилено сътрудничество между отделните Trusted Flaggers на ниво Европейски съюз. Искам също така да дам и няколко данни. До края на миналата година отговорният отдел в Европол е оценил общо 42 066 съдържания. Тази аналитична работа е довела до 40 714 решения за обръщане към компетентните власти. Всичко това е засегнало повече от 80 платформи на повече от 10 езика. Средно 86% от съдържанията, а в рамките на EU Интернет форум и много по-висок процент, 92-93%, имаме незаконно съдържание, което е премахнато. Мога само да поздравя Европол за тези резултати и да ги окуража за това как заедно с по-задълбочено сътрудничество можем да направим ефективността ни по-голяма. Имам, разбира се, тук няколко опасения и мисля, че те са споделени относно процедурите, които трябва да се използват спрямо малките платформи, към които се премества съдържанието с терористичен характер. Защото много често един от феномените, който наблюдаваме, е големите платформи имат несъмнено и технически и човешки ресурс, за да премахнат незаконното съдържание сравнително бързо. Това, което обаче се случва, че веднъж премахнато от големите платформи, незаконното съдържание бързо се настанява в малките и в средните. Те не разполагат с необходимия ресурс. Затова и ги окуражихме да има повече споделяне на технологични инструменти, да има повече общи бази данни. Междувременно трябва да се върна към първото изречение, това, че нашата препоръка е много балансирана. От една страна, тя ясно набляга на необходимостта от прозрачност по отношение на платформите и тяхната политика за управление на незаконното съдържание. Ясно дава индикация за засилено сътрудничество с полицейските органи, да имат истински статут, така наречените Trusted Flaggers. От друга страна обаче ние сме Европейски съюз и знаем, че основните права са в сърцевината на европейския проект. Свободата на словото е крайъгълен камък на нашите демокрации, било то онлайн или не. Затова в препоръката сме се погрижили да има и необходимия брой гаранции. Те включват възможността за гражданите много бързо да сигнализират, когато дадено съдържание е било премахнато, без да има основание за това. По този начин искаме да избегнем прекаленото изтриване на съдържание, така наречения феномен на over-removal. Тази препоръка също така, комисар Кинг ще каже повече подробности, отделя специално внимание на съдържанието с терористичен характер, защото днес знаем колко лесно е да бъде публикувано онлайн видео с терористична пропаганда. Този вид съдържание представлява непосредствена заплаха за сигурността на европейските граждани и поради тази причина в препоръката имаме раздел, посветен изключително и само на тероризма. Видяхме обаче, че препоръката е необвързващ акт. Видяхме, че индустрията се активизира за вземане на мерки, има все по-голямо и голямо осъзнаване, все по-окуражителни резултати. Аз лично тук ще отправя послание, че това не е края на процеса. Нека дадем отново възможност на платформите спрямо правилата, такива каквито са заложени в препоръката, да се адаптират, но ако това не бъде достатъчно, мисля, че трябва да запазим възможността си да продължим, включително и с законодателни инструменти. По втората част на темата, която днес обсъждаме, аз бих искала да кажа само и малко по-технически да засегна една от темите. Искам да се фокусирам върху техническите аспекти на препоръката за борба с незаконното съдържание, т.е. върху използването на автоматизирани средства. Ние искаме онлайн платформите да вземат проактивни, специфични и пропорционални мерки. Те включват автоматични средства с цел да направят по-ефикасно засичането и изтриването на незаконно съдържание. Мога, разбира се, само да се радвам като комисар, отговарящ за цифровата икономика и общество, и да приветствам инвестирането в развитието на ефикасни технологии. Днес успешно се използват филтри, за да блокират повторното появяване на снимки с сексуална злоупотреба върху малолетни, както и видеоклипове, подбуждащи към тероризъм. Но тук трябва да имаме винаги едно на ум. Ние ясно разбираме, че тези технологии в повечето случаи принадлежат на няколко компании, както и освен това, че базите данни, така наречените хашис или fingerprints, които поддържат филтрите срещу повторното появяване на съдържание, са достъпни само за малък брой големи компании. Затова още веднъж наблягам на посланието да насърчим споделянето на технология между колкото се може повече платформи. Стремежът е към две цели. От една страна, незаконното съдържание да не се премества от една платформа към друга, от друга страна да се подкрепят малките компании, които да не стават предпочитана жертва на потребителите с зли намерения. Знаем перфектно, че технологиите не са съвършени. Многобройни случаи в медиите показват това. Така е и що се отнася до идентифициране на снимки като незаконни, шокиращи или изобразяващи насилие. Ако искаме автоматизираните решения да работят в подкрепа на съвместните ни усилия в борбата срещу незаконното съдържание, факт е и, че техните недостатъци трябва да бъдат взети в предвид чрез ефикасни предпазни мерки. Това значи, че в случая с автоматичните инструменти трябва да присъства процес на наблюдение и на човешка проверка на съдържанието, обект на интерпретация, за да се избегнат грешни решения, които не спазват правото на свободно изразяване на потребителите. Също така, в рамките на борбата с незаконното съдържание знаем колко важно е да продължим да правим предварителна оценка на въздействието. Ще продължим и в Европейската комисия заедно в тази посока с съвместните усилия на всички участници да видим къде резултатите могат да бъдат по-ефикасни и как в реално време да се случи тази проверка. Сега ще премина към втората тема на тази среща. Това е киберсигурността. Киберсигурността е, може би, едно от най-големите предизвикателства, срещу които сме изправени днес. При това в ситуация, в която нашите общества в цифрова трансформация зависят все повече и повече от комуникационните и информационни технологии. Кибератаките не познават граници. Затова отново съм убедена, че сътрудничеството и координацията са ключови фактори за успеха, за да можем да се справим с това предизвикателство. Разбира се, на първо място е необходимо сътрудничество между различните участници, за да се подобри киберсигурността в целия Европейски съюз. Сътрудничеството трябва да бъде между националните власти, но също така и между агенциите, институциите и органите на Европейския съюз. Тук се радвам, че мога да потвърдя, че работи сътрудничеството между Европол и ЕНИСА, двете най-важни агенции, що се отнася до киберсигурността в Европа. Но ние все повече и повече трябва да се движим в тази посока. Затова разчитам изключително много и на Европейския парламент в предложението ни, което направихме през септември месец 2017 година и което в момента се обсъжда, максимално бързо да направим така, че агенцията ЕНИСА да не бъде повече агенция с временен мандат, а с постоянен, да има своя оперативен капацитет и с повече човешки ресурс и повече бюджет да се умее максимално да даде добавена стойност на това сътрудничество. Предизвикателството е важно, за всички ни е ясно, че ресурсите са ограничени, затова бихме искали да се уверим, че те се използват по възможно най-добрия начин. Затова и точно нямаме толкова голям избор, най-добре е да насърчим взаимодействието и да избегнем припокриване на задачи. Затова само сътрудничеството със сигурност е една от първите стъпки, но и наша отговорност е да координираме действията си. Виждаме колко важна е координацията по време на мащабни кризи или инциденти с киберсигурността. Поради тази причина Комисията отново в пакета, свързан с киберсигурност, представи така наречения блупринт или общоевропейски механизъм за координация в случай на широкомащабна атака. Аз разчитам на държавите членки максимално бързо да направят този механизъм оперативен. Също така искам и тук да приветствам усилията на Европол за разработване на протокол за сътрудничество с местните правоприлагащи органи в случай на криза с киберсигурността. Имаме нужда от общ подход и бърза реакция, когато става въпрос за кибератака. В тази връзка Европол, ЕНИСА ще подпише скоро меморандум за разбирателство с Европейската агенция по отбрана и с Европейския екип за незабавно реагиране при компютърни инциденти, така наречения CERT-EU, с цел подобряване на сътрудничеството. За нас е изключително важно да улесним добрия обмен на информация от местното през националното и до европейското ниво, да бъдат много бързо съставени и да се инвестира в екипи за реакция при инциденти, за да можем да осигурим информационната сигурност на Европейския съюз. Също така Европол и ЕНИСА създават възможности и ние трябва да подкрепим техните усилия, за да може да се увеличи доверието и сътрудничеството на европейско ниво. По време на дискусията се надявам да имам възможност да дам малко повече информация и за друго от нашите предложения. Това е така нареченото предложение за създаване на мрежа от Center of Competence and Excellence на ниво Европейски съюз. Бихме искали да инвестираме в хората, да инвестираме в технологиите. Затова целта на предложението ни е във всяка една от държавите членки и централно в Брюксел да бъде създаден такъв център, в който да може Европа чрез инвестиции, чрез експертиза да покаже своето лидерство в тази област. В момента, и тук се обръщам директно към държавите членки, тече пилотен проект за набиране на такива предложения от 1 февруари до края на април. Имаме пилотен проект с 50 милиона евро, финансиран по програмата Хоризонт 2020. Очакваме кандидатурите от страна на държавите членки, така че максимално бързо, в рамките на следващата една година, да направим тези центрове оперативни. Тук вашите идеи ще бъдат изключително полезни за това какъв тип експертиза и действия може да бъде наблегнато в тези центрове, така че те да подпомогнат общата ни политика в областта на киберсигурността. В заключение, държа да препотвърдя, че Европейската комисия взема много насериозно проблема с незаконното съдържание, с киберсигурността. В областта на незаконното съдържание, пак казах, нашите препоръки за момента са незадължаващи. Искаме да дадем възможност мерките, които сме идентифицирали, да бъдат приложени, да могат да ни очертаят още по-голяма яснота за следващите такива. Затова и аз ще се радвам тук да получим вашата експертиза, особено що се отнася до съдържанието с терористичен характер. Затова и се радвам, че един добър пример за това колко важно е сътрудничеството и как в толкова чувствителни области като сигурността то трябва да е водещо, сме и ние в работата си с комисар Кинг. Това е една от спецификите на тази Европейска комисия. Виждаме колко важно е взаимодействието, сътрудничеството и в крайна сметка воденето до много конкретни и приложими мерки. Онлайн светът отваря уникални възможности. За всички ни е ясно, че новите технологии дават невероятни възможности за икономически растеж, за иновации, но те крият и изключително много рискове. Те карат теми като сигурността да придобиват нови измерения. Затова трябва да останем на щрек. Не липсват рискове за нашето общество в тази среда и ние имаме отговорност. Отговорност да гарантираме сигурността и защитата онлайн, както го правим в мрежата, така и извън мрежата. Благодаря ви.
Благодаря и аз. Нека да благодарим на комисаря по цифрова икономика и общество, госпожа Габриел, за това, което каза пред нас. И сега давам думата на комисар Кинг, еврокомисар за Съюза за сигурността.
Thank you very much, Chair, joint chairs, and thank you very much for putting this subject on the agenda so prominently. Because Europol plays an important role, which we're going to discuss, but also because the subject itself is so important. As my colleague, Commissioner Gabriel, just concluded, we live in an ever more connected world, not just computers and phones now, but homes, hospitals, governments, electricity grids, the news we read, and soon even the cars we drive around in, our fridges, our washing machines, and in some cases, I'm told, even our rubbish bins are going online. And as that ever more connected world grows in importance and complexity, it brings huge benefits, but it also brings risks and threats, and we need to work together to mitigate and manage those in order to be able to get the benefits without having to live through some of the downside. One part of the downside is cybercrime. And cybercrime has been, unfortunately, booming in recent years, growing very, very fast. I think that last year there was kind of a step change in public awareness about the scale of this problem. In part, that was because of the very big attacks, WannaCry and NotPetya, which affected so many countries, over 150 countries, and affected and spilled over into many different parts of life. But also, I think it was because of the drip, drip, drip effect that many people have experienced personally of cybercrime. So last year, Europe was hit by more than 4,000 ransomware attacks on average per day. 4 in 5 European companies experienced at least one cybersecurity incident. In some countries, half of all crimes are now recorded as cybercrimes. Some surveys suggest that well over 40% of consumers have been impacted by cybercrime in the last 12 months. So it's very direct. It affects people's lives. And it has a huge cumulative economic drag on growth across our economies. Again, the estimates vary, but we do have some concrete figures. Card fraud in the Eurozone amounted to some €1.5 billion. 2/3 of that card fraud took place without the card being present. So it was cybercrime-enabled card fraud. So that there's a growing awareness of the importance of the economic impact. But I think there's also an awareness that some of the impact isn't economic. Some of these attacks and interference can go beyond economic into the political sphere. They can be direct use of cyber means for aggressive purposes. We've seen that in our member states as long ago as 2007 in Estonia, all the way through to cyber attack in France during the presidential elections in 2017. But there are also more and more cyber attacks which seek to manipulate behavior or cast questions over democratic processes, elections, or the functioning of democratic institutions. And I think it's that combination of factors that has put this subject so front and center in citizens' concerns, and why it's so important that we together need to organize to try and deal with some of these threats. As we do so, we need to remember the values that we are protecting. There is no trade-off between safety and fundamental values online. The policies that we pursue in this area must respect and protect our fundamental values. As Commissioner Gabriel said, last September, we came forward with a package of proposals designed to reinforce cybersecurity around 3 pillars of building our resilience, building deterrence, and boosting international cooperation. Maria spoke about some of the key elements of building our resilience, the work to reduce the impact of cyber attacks and protect ourselves better from such attacks in the first place. The other side of the coin, which is very important to remember, is reinforcing deterrence. We need to create real and credible disincentives for those who might think about attacking us. That means increasing their chances of getting caught and attaching some severe penalties to committing these cyber attacks. The problem is that at the moment, criminals and indeed other malicious actors are able to get away with these attacks too easily. It is too difficult to trace and hold people to account, in particular for cyber criminal attacks. So in order to build a more credible deterrence, we need to have more effective detection, traceability, investigation, and prosecution for these crimes. From our side, the Commission wants to propose different ways of creating conditions that will give law enforcement the possibility to pursue and prosecute these crimes. We need to make sure that we're doing everything we can with you at a national level and at the European level to give law enforcement the tools they need to keep us safe in the cyber domain. We've already collectively adopted directives on attacks against information systems and on stopping child sexual abuse. In addition, we've proposed new legislation to combat fraud committed through non-cash payments that I was talking about a moment ago. We welcome the fact that the Member States and the Council have adopted a general approach on those proposals earlier this month, and I look forward to taking those negotiations forward, and I hope finalising them very quickly with the help of the European Parliament. With cybercrime, the offender, the victims, and the infrastructure used to commit the crime are very often located in different countries. So there are some real challenges in following up such crimes, accessing electronic evidence. From the Commission side, we will come forward next month with a legislative proposal on obtaining electronic evidence for criminal investigations and prosecutions for cybercrime, terrorism, and other forms of serious criminal activity. Because cybercrime, as Commissioner Gabriel said, knows no boundaries, we need to have a joined-up approach, not only at the policy level, but also at the operational level, with stronger cooperation between our different law enforcement authorities. And here, Europol, I don't want to steal Rob's thunder, but Europol have played an absolutely key role over recent years and are now, I think, internationally recognized as a center of excellence in tackling cybercrime. EC3, the European Cybercrime Centre, has enabled us to focus on cooperation and outreach to all of the relevant actors in this field. As most of the cybercrime threat surface, most of what we're talking about, is run by the private sector, Europol have also facilitated really effective public-private cooperation against some of these threats. What's increasingly clear is that it's not possible to confront cybercrime effectively if the various communities do not work together. This need for cooperation is, I think, reflected in the very way that Europol works and in the structures of the Cybercrime Centre, the diversity of the membership of the centre, and by the strong links that it's created with business, with industry, and with a whole range of cyber security experts. Of course, on these threats and on cybercrime in particular, we need effective international cooperation. And I'm very glad to say that Europol provides technical and forensic support to a number of international investigations which have yielded some really important results, including last year the takedown of 2 really big criminal dark web marketplaces. Europol has quickly established an excellent track record in the provision of valuable support to national and international investigations, a fact which is confirmed in all the feedback. I'm saying that to save Rob some of his, to save him his blushes, because they really do an outstanding job in this area. But as the threat keeps evolving and increasing, law enforcement capacities also need to evolve to keep pace with this fast-changing challenge. So we need to step up cooperation and sharing of expertise and reinforce, in particular, cyber forensics and detection capabilities. And I think that Europol there can play a key role in helping the member states, in particular the member states who are not as advanced as others. Building on the work they've done, we need Europol to become a real centre of expertise that every EU member state's law enforcement automatically turn to when they need assistance in cybercrime investigations. Cybersecurity isn't only about countering ransomware attacks, botnets, DDoS attacks, and catching the perpetrators of child sexual abuse offences, vitally important as all that is. Digital technology and infrastructure is also used extensively, as Commissioner Gabriel was saying, by terrorists and others who seek to cause us harm and to disrupt our societies, to spread their pernicious and evil propaganda. Daesh, in particular, have been very good at using the online world to spread their hateful, violent messages, spreading fear and division. And I'm afraid there is a direct link between some of this illegal terrorist radicalizing material and some of the attacks that we've experienced on our streets in Europe, particularly some of the attacks last year by homegrown, self-radicalizing individuals, part of whom's radicalization was driven by online content. So that's one of the reasons why, as part of the proposals that Commissioner Gabriel was talking about on online content, we have a particular and specific focus on illegal terrorism content. And a bit like the content on child sexual exploitation, this is a particular set of horrible content that we think we can and should do more about. There are some difficult issues that Commissioner Gabriel referred to when it comes to forms of hate speech and how you balance there the fundamental values of freedom of speech. There are some big issues which we're seeking to start a debate about around fake news. Those are challenges that we take very seriously and which we're going to continue to work on. But to a degree, they are distinct from the category of illegal terrorism content. Because when it comes to that, we know what it is. We have definitions, both at the European level and at the national level. And we know that if we find it offline, we will declare it illegal and we will prohibit it and pursue and prosecute people who spread it. So the same logic needs to apply online. And that was the focus of the recommendations that we came forward the other day with, that said that we want the platforms to work with us, all the platforms to work with us, to take down such content when it is referred to them by law enforcement within 1 hour. To use automated means more to spot such content, to take it down quickly, to stop it going up in the first place, if possible, to flag it when it has been taken down so that it cannot be uploaded again, because that is one of the problems that we have. The material is taken down and it's uploaded again. That the big platforms need to help and support the smaller platforms, because the other problem we have is a problem of migration. The material that is attacked and taken down on the big platforms migrates or comes up and reappears on smaller platforms who need our help and support, not just of the industry, but also actually of the member states' authorities as well. And that all platforms should work more with law enforcement so that when material is identified as illegal terrorist content and is taken down, that is systematically notified to law enforcement, and I hope to Europol as well, so that they have an information database that they can use to go after the people who are trying to spread such content. We have set out those concrete recommendations, steps that we believe can and should be taken now. And we have said, as my colleague Commissioner Gabriel pointed out, that we will continue to try and pursue those objectives on a voluntary basis, because that's the quickest way of making progress. But if we don't get the progress we need in the next months, and we've said we will review the situation in 3 months' time, so that is end of May. If we don't get the progress we need, then we reserve the right to look again at whether we need to regulate or legislate in this area, recognizing that that won't be simple, but that we absolutely need to take action on these issues. So once again, Chairs, thank you very much for putting this subject on the agenda and giving us the opportunity to discuss it and have this exchange today. We need the support of all of the Member States' parliaments and the European Parliament as we take forward this work, which I think is absolutely crucial to the security of our citizens.
Благодаря, еврокомисар Кинг. Давам думата на Роб Wainwright, който да ни запознае с дейността на Европол по дейностите, свързани с киберпрестъпността и киберсигурността.
Thank you, Mr. Svetanov, and let me just reflect briefly on the excellent, following the excellent interventions of Commissioner Gabriel and Commissioner King. As they said, Europol is actively involved in this area, cybercrime being such a frontline issue in our efforts to contain threats on internal security. We have the European Cybercrime Centre. It's running about 200 high-profile investigations a year. As Commissioner King says, I think it's become one, if not the leading international law enforcement centres now for fighting cybercrime. You see the quality of the investigations, the level of complexity going up every year. We depend a lot on bringing the very best cyber investigators together in a unique task force that we have at the heart of EC3. This includes non-European agencies. Indeed, the FBI, for example, is very often a leader of many of our very highest profile investigations, but also the private sector, engaging more with the private sector in this area perhaps than others. The large tech firms such as Microsoft helping us to take down big botnet operations, for example, engaging with the banking sector that very often is in the front line for certain threats at the moment. So, of course, most of our work focused on providing operational support so that we can first identify and then contain the activities of the most dangerous cyber criminal groups in the world. But from the very large-scale information exchange that we are facilitating and the operational work, we also get the basis for very good strategic insight. We can see the trends across all of these operations as to where cybercrime is coming next. And Commissioner King has especially touched on this. The scale is, of course, going up. We see from that in terms of the impact that it's having. Ransomware itself recorded 300,000 victims at least around the world. Most of them were companies, not even single individuals. Data breaches now, in the case of Yahoo, 3 billion users, 3 billion people in the world affected by that data breach finally. That the impact is also increasing in different ways. Last year saw the critical infrastructure of many of our critical services impacted. 80 NHS hospitals in the WannaCry attack, as well as the German rail network, the telecoms operator in Spain. 50% of all the targets affected by non-Petya ransomware attack in the middle of the year were industrial targets, for example. The Deutsche Telekom network with almost 1 million of its users affected by a DDoS attack in November 2016 as well. Now, the reason why I think the scale is going up and the impact, I think the capability behind it is certainly getting better. The cyber criminals are becoming better at what they do. They are supported by an infrastructure of cyber criminality on the dark web especially, where some of the largest criminal marketplace forums are trading in hundreds of thousands of different illicit commodities. These are huge underground criminal Amazon places with similar infrastructure, 24/7 helplines, 24-hour guaranteed delivery rates, feedback mechanisms, a catalog that's very technologically easy to use. So it provides the backbone for why we have so much cyber criminality, as does an effective syndication. So the best, most able cyber criminal specialists starting to brigade their work, starting to collaborate rather than compete with each other, and between them, therefore, providing a strong syndicated means to provide a service, a crime as a service to criminal groups. A rising use and exploitation of new technologies such as cryptocurrencies, which has become a principal driver of certain cyber criminal trends. Ransomware today is the #1 malware threat, principally because of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has allowed those criminals to first demand and receive ransom payments in a virtually anonymous way. And so beyond that, cryptocurrencies are also supporting other forms of cyber criminality. And new threats evolving all the time. WannaCry itself was new because it had for the first time a ransomware attack that had a worm functionality built into it. That's why it spread around the world so quickly. And perhaps most worryingly of all that we are identifying at Europol across the many operations that we're running now, a distinct trend of the last 12 months where there is a blending of cyber criminal capability with that of state actors. So more and more operations, threats that are somehow a mixture of the both, which suggests that state-sponsored cyber criminal activity is either willingly or accidentally being bled into the wider cyber criminal community. Now that's dangerous because it means that some of the very highest capability is now available in a much wider domain. And I think that's what concerns us perhaps the most at the moment. From all of that, a trend towards more aggressive and direct targeting of not just governments, but critical services I already mentioned, banking services I mentioned. So a switch from the olden days where you'd have 1 million phishing emails sent out hoping that you have a 1% response rate to a lottery scam, for example, to something that's much more targeted now on the highest profile, the highest net worth individuals, the highest profile organizations, and a much more targeted spear phishing-led targeting of these companies. Meanwhile, our response trends are getting better, and I agree with Commissioner King that last year seemed like a seminal moment because I'm noticing now in the boardrooms of some of our largest companies a much better awareness even within the last 12 months. But still it's not as good as it should be. We still saw in WannaCry itself that what was in the end quite a simple exploitation of a failure to patch systems, which is, a basic cybersecurity concern, that was catching out even some of the largest companies in the world. So there's still clearly a problem of getting our minimum cybersecurity standards up to the highest level. And despite all the new threats that we're seeing, still 80% of the problem relates to the recycling of old tools. So if we have minimum cybersecurity standards, almost all of the problem is taken care of. And that certainly has to be our first priority. With that in mind, the legislation that is coming this year, so if last year was an important year, this year will certainly be the year of legislative impact because of GDPR and because of also the NIS directive, both of which impose on companies and critical services minimum standards of cybersecurity. And GDPR especially carries a huge fine behind it for those that do not meet those standards or fail to report a cybersecurity breach. This will have an impact. It certainly will. And over long term, a very positive impact, I believe, of driving up cybersecurity standards. But in the short term, what we might see is an apparent increase in the scale of cybercrime and the number of breaches. It's just that companies are now perhaps being a bit more public and honest with those attacks that are hitting them. And of course, alongside that, our responses have also significantly been enhanced by the legislative and policy action at national level, but mainly in the European space. Both the commissioners reported on the very many steps that we've seen from the European Commission especially, and also the European Parliament in recent years. And all of the things that they mentioned about e-evidence, about encryption, about the emergency protocol for coordinating law enforcement response, something that Commissioner Gabriel mentioned, these are all extremely important in building better levels of response in terms of what they both said, resilience, deterrence and international cooperation. And for our part at Europol, it's simply that we're here to provide that platform, to act as an international centre so that we can help to investigate the worst excesses of cybercriminality and keep our citizens safe. We are also active, of course, in terms of countering terrorist content online. And as you also heard from the commissioners, this is still a major frontline part of the threat that we face from terrorism. That Daesh's technological capability is certainly higher than we've seen from any terrorist group in the past. We see them also evolving to the responses that we are taking. They're disseminating older material by new means, essentially, as Commissioner Gabriel says, the shift from larger to smaller platforms, social media platforms and forums. The use of Telegram as one social media platform that is perhaps less responsible and less productive in cooperation with us as well. The use, how the propaganda messages has changed, rather encouraging radicalized people to come to Syria and Iraq to join the fight to establish a caliphate, instead to incite and encourage those to stay at home in the West, in Europe, and carry out attacks there. And meanwhile, in terms of our response, the Europol, the EU Internet Referral Unit at Europol, working with its national counterparts to identify and remove tens of thousands of terrorist contents online, but also by taking a more intelligence-led approach to identify how the ecosystem of this terrorist propaganda online works, so that we can have the maximum impact on those accounts that are critical to that ecosystem. So we're really evolving our approach while working with over 80 social media platforms in more than 10 languages and working with our national counterparts. As Commissioner Ging says, the trend in our response, working through the very important mechanism of the EU Internet Forum, which provides the means by which we can hold also industry to account. We're moving towards now means by which we can improve automatic detection capability. And Europol is involved in a pilot project with national units of Belgium, France and the Netherlands to see how we can coordinate this automatic referral as well. So in the technology-enabled space of crime and terrorism, quickly becoming perhaps the most decisive element of how we all collectively can collaborate to keep our citizens safe in the future. And Europol is certainly pleased to play its part and to support the activities of our member states. Thank you.
Благодаря, господин Wainwright. Колеги, започваме с заявките за изказвания. Първо започваме с госпожа Боровиц от парламента на Полша.
Okay, thank you. Dear co-chairman, dear colleagues, cybercrimes are usually a step ahead legal formal structures which are set up for countering it. That is why it is important to have a legal frameworks and practical means of exchange information and data which help us to deal with the possible attacks. And it is clarity and simplicity of procedures that provide us with efficiency in activities and challenges, and we should approach to it. But still, the intellectual and technological capacity of Europe is crucial to provide the proper and high standard protection against cybercrimes. Therefore, such agency as Europol is necessary to maintain cooperation in the European Union dimension, but also to enable us a global cooperation with America, India, China, and Russia, and the other third parties. And one of the most challenging tasks in cybersecurity is countering cybercrimes against children, as they are especially detrimental to them, for example, sexual abuse of children. So we are all obliged to protect children against any inappropriate actions and content, and to use any means Europol may provide. As the Polish parliamentarians, we are happy to have an opportunity to work in the format as JPSG, and not only scrutinize, but also to support Europol in its activities in challenging and difficult fields. Благодаря. Thank you.
Благодаря и аз. Даваме думата на господин Димитрио от Кипър.
We just covered. It's okay. We don't have any question. Thank you very much.
Беше заявено и затова просто ви обявих. Извинявам се. Давам думата на Диез Демера, член на комисията Либе и евродепутат в Европейския парламент.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Creo que ha sido una feliz iniciativa incluir en este debate la cuestión fundamental de la presentación del paquete europeo de ciberdelincuencia. Voy a hacer unas cuantas preguntas concretas con el ruego encarecido de su respuesta. En primer lugar, me dirijo al comisario King. A ver, le felicito, señor comisario, por el lanzamiento de la reciente propuesta legislativa en el ámbito de la interoperabilidad. Dos propuestas de reglamento que van dirigidos a la cooperación policial, a la cooperación judicial, al asilo y a la inmigración. Pero mi pregunta concreta, que tiene que ver con una discusión que mantuve con la BK en el seno de la Comisión Especial de Terrorismo, es la siguiente. Se refiere a la ventana, al portal de búsqueda europeo. Portal de búsqueda europeo, EULISA y la interoperabilidad. Es una cuestión compleja, porque para ser eficaces necesitamos propuestas legislativas, como las que acabamos de comentar, y presupuesto. Estamos hablando de, voy a mencionar unas cuantas ventanas. Estamos hablando de Europol, del reglamento de entradas y salidas, que no entrará en vigor hasta el año 20, de ETIAS, que está en fase de tramitación parlamentaria, y luego los tres potentes en el seno de EULISA, que son Eurodac, el SIS y el VIS. Además, tenemos que introducir ahí a Interpol y a la ECRIS. A ver, para ser eficaces tenemos que hacer interoperables estas bases de datos. Pero, señor comisario, ¿cuál es, a su juicio, el horizonte temporal para hacer eficaz esta interoperabilidad? Y, al mismo tiempo, si puede, es una pregunta complicada, aunque ya ha dado números en otra ocasión, pero ¿de qué presupuesto estamos hablando? Muchas gracias. Para María Gabriel, perdonen que haga un pequeño apartado con María Gabriel porque hemos sido compañeros, colaboradores, hasta hace bien poco. Y yo tengo por ella mucho respeto, mucha admiración y mucha amistad, mucho cariño. María y yo hemos trabajado codo con codo en el Reglamento 539/2001, que es el que se refiere a la política de visados de la Unión Europea. Y ella me ha ayudado mucho, ella es la responsable de que mi país, el Reino de España, haya podido conceder la exención de visados a Colombia y al Perú. Muchas gracias públicamente de nuevo por ello. Y ahora en lo que concierne a tu nuevo trabajo. Tu nuevo trabajo, como hiciste en el Parlamento, ya estás acreditando calidad y eficacia, la economía digital y la sociedad digital. Bueno, pues dos preguntas concretas que me interesan en el ámbito de Europol. A ver, ¿qué podemos hacer para mejorar las capacidades del EC3 y del IRU? Son dos herramientas, como ha dicho Rob, muy potentes y muy importantes en el ámbito del debate que estamos manteniendo aquí esta tarde. Y Rob, finalmente, se ha referido con mucho acierto y con más preocupación al papel de las criptomonedas. Las criptomonedas facilitan la financiación del terrorismo, pero al mismo tiempo están muy presentes en el mercado cibernético. ¿Qué podemos hacer? Es una pregunta complicada que requiere una respuesta complicada. Nada más y muchas gracias.
Благодаря, господин Диаз де Мера. Давам думата на господин Тарис Кабрас от Европейския парламент.
Thank you, Chair. We know that one of the tasks of Europol's Internet Referral Unit is to carry out and support referrals quickly, efficiently, and effectively in close cooperation with the industry. These tasks are carried out by receiving requests from the Member States or through the research for content online. As far as I'm aware of, the referral activity, meaning the reporting of terrorist and extremist online content to the concerned online service provider, does not constitute an enforceable act. Thus, the decision in removal of referred identified terrorist and extremist online content is taken by the concerned service provider and their own responsibility and accountability. Well, I am aware, of course, of the threats, and we have to protect ourselves and fight against them, but wouldn't it be more efficient, transparent and objective if the referrals were made to a judicial authority who, after following a proper criminal investigation, decided that the content is indeed illegal and ordered the online service provider to erase the content? Don't you think that this kind of privatized policing approach leads to a very arbitrary law enforcement by private enterprises on the basis of their terms of reference, which, by the way, they are not in criminal law? And now if you allow me just 1 minute for a general, very brief comment on security and freedom, something which was asked for this morning in the debate. I'm very much in favor of efficacy, and I think that balance is a nice word to order one's life, but I think that when we speak about security and freedom, we should be able to prioritize. Why this? Because they are not at the same level. Authoritarian regimes prefer security, and they press down rights and freedoms, because security is the main thing to be prosecuted. So, and democratic regimes know that security is extremely important, but always at the service of freedom. Always. To protect freedom, to enforce freedom, not to diminish them. This is what Sir Julian King said, and I completely agree. Well, he said it much better, but I mean, I agree with him. There is no trade-off between security and freedom. That's why to keep in a balance both looks to me, well, a bit dangerous, and to look for efficacy, we have to be, of course, in favor of efficacy. But the most efficacious regimes are dictatorships. They are extremely in favor of efficacy, so that though no one can speak, no one can think, because everything is clear and cut clear. So I would recommend very much to be on the line of knowing that security should always be at the service of freedom, not the other way around. Thank you very much.
Благодаря. Аз само ще помоля на всеки, който му даваме думата, да се придържаме към регламента, който от 2 минути, за да може след това да дадем възможност на съответните участници в панела да отговорят на поставените въпроси. А виждаме, че има и доста заявени, за да вземат отношение по темата. Давам думата на госпожа Чинини от Европейския парламент.
Sì, grazie Presidente, grazie per aver inserito questo panel nella discussione odierna. Io seguo appunto come componente della Commissione Libe e come componente della Commissione Speciale sul Terrorismo questi temi e voglio ringraziare i commissari qui presenti oggi perché ne conosco l'attenzione e l'impegno su questi temi. È stata importantissima l'adozione delle raccomandazioni per un uso sicuro di Internet ed è però indispensabile che vengano dotate le strutture preposte appunto a rendere Internet un luogo più sicuro di tutte quelle risorse che non sono solo finanziarie ma, come bene ha detto la commissaria Gabriel, sono anche risorse umane. E credo sia davvero importante, il commissario King lo ha sottolineato ripetutamente, lavorare per contrastare diciamo, l'inserimento in Internet di quei contenuti illeciti che vanno dall'abuso allo sfruttamento sessuale dei minori ai reati finanziari di diversa natura fino appunto ai messaggi di odio online e di propaganda terroristica. La cyber security sicuramente è la sfida più difficile che in termini di sicurezza siamo chiamati ad affrontare perché Internet non ha confini territoriali, Internet non ha confini temporali perché i messaggi si propagano in tempo reale immediatamente con una diffusione enorme e allora la sfida è davvero consistente. Sono state fatte delle domande specifiche dai colleghi che mi hanno preceduto, in particolare dal collega Diaz de Meira con cui lavoriamo diciamo fianco a fianco nelle stesse commissioni. Io però credo sempre che bisogna sforzarsi di lavorare non solo per far fronte e contrastare al fenomeno, ma per quanto possibile cercare di prevenirlo. E allora il dottor Wainwright, e io lo ringrazio perché il ruolo di Europol nell'azione di contrasto a questa tipologia di reati e di illeciti è stato veramente, veramente rilevante, anche nel supporto che danno ai paesi, agli Stati membri che non sono nelle condizioni di adottare quelle strutture, mi riferisco per esempio al corrispondente interno dei paesi dell'Internet Referral Unit costituito presso Europol, dicevo anche nel supporto che danno ai paesi. Però sulla sua riflessione, e cioè della continua evoluzione, ahimè purtroppo, della criminalità e dell'utilizzo di strumenti informatici sempre più, fra virgolette, raffinati da parte della criminalità, allora io mi chiedo cosa si può fare in termini di prevenzione, ferma restando quell'esigenza di cooperazione che è stata sottolineata da tutti e che io non posso che condividere. Cosa possiamo ancora sforzarci di fare, soprattutto in termini di prevenzione, considerato che la criminalità purtroppo continua ad essere un passo avanti nell'utilizzo a fini distorti e quindi a fini illeciti di Internet e di tutti gli strumenti che a Internet fanno capo? È sufficiente, come ha detto per esempio il collega Diaz de Meira, è sufficiente rafforzare e potenziare IRU LC3 per contrastare in termini di prevenzione l'utilizzo distorto da parte di internet da parte delle organizzazioni criminali, o cos'altro possiamo porre in campo ancora in termini legislativi e non solo? Grazie.
Благодаря. Давам думата на господин Волс.
Vielen Dank. Nein. Ich glaube mal, wenn wir noch gemeinsam den Willen aufbringen wollen, nicht in Kriminalität unterzugehen, dann müssen wir uns hier entsprechend anstrengen. Wir haben zu behäbige Strukturen, um überhaupt mit diesen Phänomenen, die grenzüberschreitend stattfinden, umzugehen. Ich glaube, wir brauchen dort flexiblere Arbeitsstrukturen, dass man diese Dinge, die vorgeschlagen worden sind von Maria Gabriel und auch dem Julian King, da einfach mal loszulegen unter dem Motto Try and Error oder ein bisschen smarte Gesetzgebung. Auf jeden Fall flexibler muss es sein, damit man dann die Dinge, die sich nicht gut entwickeln, auch wieder vernünftig einfangen kann. Und das können wir mit unseren behäbigen Strukturen, glaube ich, in einer Demokratie nicht so ohne weiteres leisten. Deshalb ist diese Konzentration im Moment auf Cyber, sich zu konzentrieren und damit das Darknet sozusagen auch noch mit da drin zu haben, eine der wesentlichsten Herausforderungen, die wir haben. Und damit können wir auch Europol nicht alleine lassen. Wir haben zwar, um uns ein gutes Gewissen zu bereiten, immer gesagt, ja, wir haben ja da eine Stelle, Europol auf einer Ebene. Aber wenn wir das tatsächlich ernst meinen, hier gegen Kriminalität vorzugehen, dann müssen wir Europol und auch die Mitgliedstaaten entsprechend die ausstatten. Und da brauchen wir höchstwahrscheinlich das 10-fache von dem an Geld, was wir jetzt im Moment bereit sind auszugeben. Da müssen wir einiges drauflegen, wenn es uns tatsächlich ernst ist, hier weiterzumachen. Was sind denn im Moment die größten Herausforderungen, die auf uns zukommen? Das ist einmal das Internet der Dinge, das sind unterschiedliche Gesetzgebungen in den Mitgliedstaaten, das ist menschliches Handeln und das ist eine unsichere Software oder unsichere Struktur, wie wir sie im Moment haben. Was brauchen wir eigentlich? Wir brauchen eine Strategie, um Cyberanschläge zu verhindern. Wir brauchen eine Strategie, um unsere Strukturen sicherer zu machen. Wir brauchen eine Strategie, wie man denn das Ganze auch beantwortet. Und da meine ich auch, dass wir nicht einfach stehen bleiben und sagen, wir wollen uns mal nur verteidigen. Nein, hier würde ich auch sagen, da brauchen wir eine Art Hack-Back-Situation. Ich weiß, es bringt viele, viele Fragen, wirft das auf, aber wir können uns nicht einfach immer nur als Opfer dahinstellen und warten, bis uns jemand angreift. Ich glaube, wir brauchen robustere Systeme, wir brauchen Security by Design mit einer entsprechenden Qualitätskontrolle, wir brauchen die Aufklärung, wir brauchen die Meldepflichten, wir brauchen Übungen, um auch dafür gewappnet zu sein. Das muss ENISA auch hier noch mehr leisten. Wir brauchen die gemeinsamen Standards und natürlich optimalerweise auf der transatlantischen Ebene zumindest. Wir brauchen die Zusammenarbeit mit anderen Staaten, mit den Zivilgesellschaften und mit den Firmen. Und nochmal, wenn man es ernst meint und das auch richtig machen will, dann brauchen wir nach meiner vielleicht laienhaften Einschätzung, aber Minimum das 10-fache von dem, was wir im Moment bereit sind auszugeben.
Благодаря. Още веднъж ще призова всички, които заявяват желание за въпроси, да се придържаме към регламента от 2 минути, защото хората, които искат да се изкажат, стават все повече и повече. Давам думата на госпожа Grapini.
Mulțumesc, domnule președinte. Încerc să mă încadrez în 2 minute. Pornesc de la ce a spus domnul comisar King, lumea este din ce în ce mai interconectată, și de la ceea ce a spus doamna comisar Gabriel, că vrem să facem internetul mai sigur și obiectivul final să protejăm cetățenii. Eu cred că este un format foarte bun astăzi, pentru că avem parlamentele naționale și avem 2 comisari aici care ne-au transmis informații foarte importante pe lângă cele de la Europol. Vreau să formulez concret 2 întrebări pentru doamna comisar Gabriel și 2 pentru domnul comisar King. Doamna comisar, ați spus că sunteți îngrijorată datorită faptului că procedurile aplicabile platformelor mari nu sunt aplicabile platformelor mici și trebuie să avem grijă și cum protejăm IMM-urile. Puteți să ne spuneți dacă aveți în plan, în gândire, cum faceți acest lucru? Și pentru că ați vorbit de identificatori de încredere și, repet, pentru că avem parlamentele naționale aici, puteți să detaliați ce înțelegeți, cum puteți să definiți identificatorii de încredere și cum îi selectăm ca să fie de încredere. Iar pentru domnul comisar King, domnul comisar, spuneați că trebuie să avem măsuri de descurajare pentru atacuri. Aveți deja o listă, puteți să ne spuneți câteva dintre ele? Și ați mai spus de asemenea că vreți să faceți o propunere pentru obținerea informațiilor. Aveți detalii acum? Pentru că ar fi bine dacă avem reprezentanții parlamentelor naționale să meargă cu mai multe informații acasă. Mulțumesc!
Благодаря ви, изправихте се блестящо. Давам думата на господин Папатеодоро.
Merci. Pardon. Merci, Monsieur le Président. Nous tenons à féliciter les 3 intervenants pour leur présentation qui donne une dimension globale au problème de la cybercriminalité. Nous avons souvent l'impression que l'évolution de la technologie de ce type de criminalité se trouve par rapport à la technologie des États pour faire face à la criminalité cybercriminalité se trouve en retard. Donc, mon observation porte sur la nature même de la cybercriminalité. Il s'agit d'un phénomène qui n'a pas seulement une origine purement criminelle, mais aussi, parfois, il dispose d'un soutien, d'une implication des services de certains États tiers. Donc la question qui se pose par rapport aujourd'hui à la manipulation possible des institutions démocratiques et même la manipulation des sociétés, quelles seront donc les préoccupations principales de Europol par rapport à ces sujets et quelle pourrait être une stratégie commune de l'Union européenne. Merci beaucoup.
Благодаря ви. Давам думата на госпожа Стивенс от Европейския парламент.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner King and Mr. Wainwright have just given examples of cybercrimes. Money laundering constitutes an important source to finance organized crime. What measures does the Commission and Europol envisage for the future in order to better counteract the growing phenomenon of money laundering via the unregulated digital cash and cryptocurrencies? Thank you.
Благодаря за това кратко изказване. Давам думата на госпожа Карамали от Франция.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Président. Merci aussi aux différents intervenants qui nous ont éclairés, mais qui, je pense, à moi, soulèvent une triple question avec peut-être un acteur principal, me semble-t-il, qui peut résoudre ces questions-là. Le commissaire a rappelé tout à l'heure que les agences européennes doivent poursuivre les infractions. Mais comment avancer de manière plus efficace lorsque ce sont les États membres qui ont la responsabilité de la procédure pénale, avec des fortes disparités qui existent entre les différents membres? Le représentant de l'Europol a rappelé que dans les activités, qu'il fallait construire une task force, qu'il fallait faire participer le secteur privé, le Microsoft, le secteur bancaire. Quand on regarde en même temps, on regarde de près, un certain nombre d'entreprises, souvent sont attaquées, ne le reconnaissent pas, ces attaques, parce qu'ils ont peur de leur réputation. Donc, et puis quand on regarde aussi le dernier aspect qui est finalement le développement des transactions sur le darknet qu'on appelle, on ne sait pas si Europol surveille bien ce darknet, mais surtout on voit aussi que c'est dans les États membres qu'on encourage ce darknet pour diverses raisons. Donc la question de fond, comment agir concrètement et de manière efficace si les États membres ne prennent pas part à ce combat, les parlements également? C'est une question politique sur le fond. Et qu'est-ce que vous pouvez proposer pour faire agir autrement les États membres? Quand je regardais tout à l'heure la remarque de notre collègue s'y rappelait de la Belgique, 85% de contributions viennent uniquement de 5 pays étant membres, 15% des échanges finalement et de contributions vers l'Europol, c'est les 23 autres pays. Donc il y a une responsabilité politique des États membres. Qu'est-ce que nous pouvons faire en tant que parlementaires auprès de nos gouvernements?
Благодаря. Давам думата на госпожа Везе от Холандия.
Thank you. I thank Mr. Wainwright for the insight. Mr. Wainwright informed us that Europol can see trends. Can Mr. Wainwright inform us about the trends Europol sees and where the threats are coming from? And what does Europol do to combat these threats? Thank you.
Благодаря и аз. Давам думата на господин Тихних.
Dankeschön auch seitens der Delegation aus Österreich für den informativen Tag. Dankeschön an das Podium für diese Beiträge, die wir heute hier erleben dürfen. Meine Frage geht in die Richtung, wie schaut es aus mit der künstlichen Intelligenz? Wie kann Europol, aber auch die Sicherheit, die künstliche Intelligenz in Zukunft nützen? Aber auch auf der anderen Seite, wie gefährlich ist künstliche Intelligenz, wenn sie von dementsprechend Terroristen genützt wird, um im Internet dementsprechend auch Schaden anzurichten? Denn wir haben in den letzten Jahren immer schon gesehen, die künstliche Intelligenz wird sich weiterentwickeln. In welchen Händen sie sich am besten weiterentwickelt, wird sich entscheiden, wenn wir sicherlich in der politischen Ebene hier Schritte setzen und auch dementsprechend Geldmittel zur Verfügung stellen, dass wir die Ersten sind, die hier wirklich auch in Zukunft den Schutz der Bürger herstellen können. Dankeschön.
Благодаря на представителите от Австрия, защото бяха изключително внимателни и прецизни във времето. Давам думата на последния заявил да се изкаже. Това е лорд Солей, Великобритания.
Thank you. I just want to say there was a reference made by speakers to both fake news and to government intervention. Government intervention in Estonia, for example, was clearly and profoundly wrong. It gets more complex when you're talking about fake news and intervention in elections. And I just really want to ask, have there any ideas about what we can do about that, apart from being very vigilant and drawing attention to it when it happens, because I find it quite difficult to think how we can legislate to stop it.
Благодаря и преди да дам думата на еврокомисарите и на директора на Европол, искам да благодаря за голямата активност, която изцяло препокрива и новите предизвикателства пред киберсигурността и киберпрестъпността, което означава, че действително сме направили всичко възможно с Клод Мораес да изберем правилните теми, за да можем действително в председателството да имаме актуални теми по важни въпроси. Заповядайте, еврокомисара Кинг.
Thank you very much. I like this order of replying to the questions because it allows me to reply to some and leaves the pleasure of replying to others, to my colleagues. Thank you very much for your questions. Thanks for your engagement with this subject. I think we're all agreed that this is a really crucial subject that we need to keep on our agenda for meetings like this. You raise a number of very good questions. We haven't got complete answers to all of these questions because this is an evolving and developing area of challenge. But we want to work with you to try and do everything we can to make ourselves more cyber secure against a range of different threats that we've been talking about. So one or two of you asked about the strategy. There is a strategy which we're developing with the Member States and indeed with the European Parliament. And that is to reinforce the resilience of our systems, our platforms and our devices, to reinforce the deterrence against criminals, but also against non-state and state actors, to deter them from attacking us, and to boost the international cooperation. Those are the pillars of our strategy. As we've sketched out, and we can go into more detail, if not in this session, then separately, we have concrete proposals for building resilience around a cybersecurity agency, which will help reinforce critical infrastructure and organize response to attacks, around a series of proposals to raise standards through, to start with, a voluntary process of certification. This is something the Commission has done in other areas very successfully. We believe that we can do it in this area too. And to significantly boost research into cybersecurity. All of those are part of building our resilience. But it's not just physical resilience, it's also the resilience of our societies and our citizens and increasing cybersecurity awareness, because it's a responsibility of everybody, right down to the individual. So we also have a program of awareness building, education, skills building, to try and do something about the human dimension of cybersecurity as well. It is crucial that we work with the private sector. 90-something%, 95% at least of what we're talking about is in the private sector. So we have incentives, both negative and positive, to encourage the private sector to work with us on these issues. Rob Wainwright mentioned the impact of the GDPR and the NIS directive, but also, I would say, the positive impact of the network of public-private partnerships that we're building up on cybersecurity research and development will further reinforce the already good public-private cooperation. And we work with third countries and partners on this, because it is absolutely essential, not only that like-minded countries find ways of reinforcing their cooperation, but that we are willing, in the right circumstances, to engage with countries who do not necessarily share exactly the same approach to these issues. Because there may be things that we can do with some governments to help tackle what, again, Rob Wainwright talked about, the mingling of state and criminal activities. We certainly shouldn't let that challenge go without trying to engage with it. We also have plans to reinforce how the Member States work together on information sharing and increasing our knowledge base, not only for dealing with cyber threats, but with a whole range of other threats, which goes to the question from Mr. Diaz de Mera about building up our information systems. We have, as he says, a very ambitious program of reinforcing existing information systems, building new information systems, and making them work together. That is a program that stretches from now into the beginning of the next decade. I'd like us to be able to go faster, but we can only go as fast as the legislative agreement and the legislative framework. So there we're in the hands of the European Parliament and the national parliaments, and the development of the practical and technological foundations of these, and infrastructure of these databases. So at the moment, providing we get the agreement on the outstanding questions, including interoperability, this year, which I sincerely hope we will, our program stretches until 2023. And we have set out a funding profile for that program as well. We have the funds in this financial framework. Of course, the future budget still has to be agreed, which brings me to a general point on resources. A number of you mentioned resources from different directions. We need to make sure that the efforts that we are talking about here on cybersecurity and information exchange are adequately resourced. That means supporting Europol. It means supporting a range of other agencies, EU LISA, the agencies on cyber as well, starting with the new reinforced ENISA, the Cybersecurity Agency. It means being willing to adequately fund research, and it means being willing to invest in skills and human development in this area. All of that comes at a price. We believe we have the resources for the next couple of years. But beyond that, we're talking about the future budget period. And there, we rely upon you. We rely upon the member states, including, crucially, the debate in national parliaments and the debate in the European Parliament, to determine the relative priority that you want to attach to these issues in the future budget. So I think it's very important that you're focused on this, that you're focused on it now, because there will be decisions to be taken in the coming months that will affect our ability to deliver effective security for years to come.
Благодаря, еврокомисар Мария Габриел. С нейния отговор може би ще облегчи малко работата на Роб Wainwright.
Благодаря много. Аз също искам да благодаря от все сърце за силния ангажимент, интерес, за многото въпроси. Ще се концентрирам конкретно по част от тях. Най-напред, що се отнася до изказването на Полша и киберпрестъпленията срещу деца. Несъмнено това е една от най-тежките форми. Несъмнено тук трябва да имаме още по-координирани и явни действия. Искам да привлека вниманието само към мрежата InHope и Алианса за защита на малолетните. Те дават изключително добри резултати. Истината е, че днес всички тези различни групи имат съвсем различна процедура за подаване на незаконно съдържание, сигнализирането. Те имат съвсем различен състав, така че отново стигаме до основното предизвикателство, повече координация между отделните институции, държавите членки, между отделните организации. Сега, на въпроса на господин Демера, какво може да се направи още повече за засилване на оперативния капацитет и как конкретно да засилим сътрудничеството с EC3. Je vais directement répondre en français. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Diaz-de Mera, pour votre question. Tout d'abord, concernant la coopération dans le domaine de la cybersécurité entre le IC3 et ENISA. Elle existe, cette coopération, sur des questions techniques. Ensuite, deuxième exemple, nous avons une coopération jusqu'ici informelle avec le CERT-EU sur des cas très concrets. Je donne l'exemple. Au moment où nous avons eu l'attaque NotPetya avant l'été 2017, concrètement, le chef de IC3 avec ENISA et nous, la commission, avec le CIE, avec le CERT-EU, nous avons été en contact direct et nous avons échangé des informations régulièrement. Troisième chose, actuellement, nous sommes en train de travailler sur un Memorandum of Understanding entre le IC3, ENISA, CERT-EU et l'Agence européenne de défense pour justement formaliser la coopération opérationnelle. Nous attendons qu'au mois de mai, on puisse conclure ce Memorandum of Understanding. Et dans l'article 3 du Memorandum, il est clairement dit qu'il y a plusieurs aires dans lesquelles nous pouvons coopérer. Cela va de l'échange d'informations jusqu'à l'éducation, la formation et aussi les cyber-exercices. C'est pour cela que j'attire l'attention sur le cyber-exercice, parce que dans notre proposition à la Commission européenne, l'exercice que ENISA organisait tous les 2 ans avec les États membres. Dorénavant, ce sera un exercice annuel et je pense que ce serait extrêmement utile cette année de voir au mois de juin quelles vont être les vulnérabilités du côté des États membres, mais aussi de prévoir à ce moment une coopération étroite avec Europol et avec EC3. Преминавам отново на български, за да мога да кажа няколко думи за криптовалутите. Истината е, че нашата работа сега започва. Тук Европа изостава. Затова в Европейската комисия сме предприели няколко стъпки с цел ускоряване на мерките и на експертизата, която можем да изведем на преден план. Най-напред, на 1 февруари 2018 сме анонсирали създаването на Европейска обсерватория по блокчейн. В момента тече отново селекция на експерти. Призовавам държавите, членки, националните делегации да обърнат специално внимание. Именно първият състав на тази обсерватория ще може много ясно да насочи вниманието и към темите, свързани с киберсигурността. По същият начин всичко свързано с киберсигурността е в рамките на така нареченото ни законодателно предложение Финтек. Аз искам да обърна внимание и на HPC, това е High Performance Computing, много често не мислим за това, така наречения суперкомпютър. Давам много конкретен пример. През 2012 година Европа разполага с 4 от 10-те първи в света. Днес ние не сме в топ 10. Това им трябва на малките платформи, на държавите членки, много голяма скорост за това да могат бързо да бъдат установявани подозрителни поведения онлайн. В момента повече от месец имаме ясно финансиране от страна на Европейската комисия 1 милиард евро, 486 милиона от Европейската комисия, останалата сума осигурена от държавите членки. Отправям призив, защото все още имаме само 13 държави членки. Ето това е една общоевропейска структура, която може да бъде изключително полезна за националната сигурност на всяка една от държавите членки. От криптирането до бързото установяване на подозрително онлайн поведение. Тук искам да се спра и на малките платформи, да благодаря за въпросите. Какво бихме могли да направим за тях? Със сигурност сътрудничество с големите и защо не да помислим за обща база данни. Така както го прави Европол с голямата над 20 000 хаштаг споделена база данни, може би е време наистина и платформите да направят нещо такова в областта на незаконното съдържание извън това свързано с тероризма. Trusted Flaggers, да, статутът не е даден веднъж за винаги. По време на кръглата маса, която съм организирала с тях, беше ясно много, беше казано, че този статут трябва постоянно да бъде актуализиран, така че тези хора да не са веднъж за винаги дадени като експерти. Добавям, че това са експерти на доброволни начала. Много важно е да се работи с тях, защото цифрите са ужасяващи. 96% от сигнализираното от Trusted Flaggers в Европейски съюз съдържание се появява 24 часа по-късно, дали на същата голяма или на по-малки платформи. Затова е много важно да се засили сътрудничеството между тях. Artificial Intelligence, много благодаря на Австрия за важния акцент. Несъмнено това е бъдещето. От тук нататък трябва да бъдем максимално кохерентни в това какво иска да направи Европейския съюз. На 25 април Европейската комисия ще излезем с съобщение, отнасящо се до изкуствения интелект и в момента тече отново селекция на експерти. Нашето предложение ще бъде да бъде създаден Европейски алианс, който да работи върху 3 основни теми в областта на изкуствения интелект. Най-напред как да засилим технологичния капацитет, темата за киберсигурността ще бъде несъмнено вътре. Втората област, върху която ще работят е, някои биха казали много европейска, но тя дава добавена стойност на нашият европейски подход, т.е. да не подминаваме много важни етични въпроси, темата за отговорността на платформите, за правата, каквито сме виждали в Европейския парламент, много големи дискусии за правата на роботите, например. И третата изключително важна област, това е въздействието на изкуствения интелект върху пазара на труда и уменията. Защото днес никой не може да каже със сигурност колко работни места ще изчезнат. Анализите варират от 9 до 60%. Истината е обаче, че работните места ще се трансформират благодарение на тази цифрова революция, която преживяваме. Изкуственият интелект трябва да бъде в услуга на човека. Затова нашата цел е една, наистина да използваме подхода Human on Command. Това е най-важното, което трябва да запазим. И последна точка, искаме повече структури, по-голям оперативен капацитет, искаме повече средства. Благодаря за тези, които се изказаха в тази насока и няма как тук да устоя на изкушението да не споделя с държавите членки, че следващите седмици и месеци предстоят много тежки дебати, свързани с многогодишната финансова рамка на Европейски съюз. Нашето предложение е ясно. Днес има необходимост да инвестираме много повече в цифровизацията и в тази цифровизация киберсигурността е една от основните теми. Поискали сме наистина неколкократно увеличаване на инвестициите в областта на киберсигурността, за да може да гарантираме сигурността на гражданите си. Един конкретен пример с сравнение. Публично-частното партньорство на Европейски съюз в областта на киберсигурността е 1,8 милиарда. Съединените щати са инвестирали 10 пъти повече. Няма как да искаме еднакви резултати при не еднакво равнище на инвестиции, така че аз тук ще се радвам на всяка подкрепа и в следващите месеци по отношение на бюджета на Европейски съюз и мястото в достойното място, което трябва да взема за него темата за киберсигурността. Благодаря ви.
Аз Европа Wainwright да изчерпи абсолютно всички останащи въпроси, които бяха зададени.
Well, thank you for leaving me all the remaining questions. Actually, I have a few reflections. Mr. Diaz-de-Mera asked about what we can do about cryptocurrencies, and Commissioner Gabriel already mentioned some very good points. I mentioned in my address that it was a primary factor in the rise of ransomware. We're also seeing, of course, how it acts as a vehicle for modern-day investment frauds of the Ponzi-type schemes, and this is a major component as well. But as Ms. Stevens also said, it is a money laundering instrument. And that's the third security concern we have relating to cryptocurrencies, especially as criminals are moving more and more away from Bitcoin towards even more secure and virtually 100% anonymized other cryptocurrencies like Ethereum or Dash. So it's getting harder for us, therefore, to monitor transactions in this area. And there is a big hole in our anti-money laundering regime at the moment because these cryptocurrencies don't have a central banking authority like fiat currency. They're also not part of the current anti-money laundering regime. So there's no means by which financial institutions can report suspicious financial transactions, for example. Now that is changing. It should change with some of the measures that the Commissioner referred to, and also the 5th anti-money laundering directive. I think this is essential. I agree with the view of Mr. Terry Cabras about we shouldn't wish for the privatization of our policing. I agree. I think that's a good point he makes. He's not in the room, but I can still agree with him, I think. However, any move, I think, towards making the removal process at the subject of a judicial system after, as he put it, an appropriate law enforcement investigation, I wonder about the practicalities of that, given, as Commissioner King says, our aim is to have a 1-hour window for the identification and removal of that terrorist content. And indeed to do it on a very high scale, tens of thousands indeed that we're talking about over many months. So we have to think about the practicalities of that. I agree with people's views about resources, but I won't repeat what we've heard from the Commissioner. Regarding what Mr. Tivnik said about the threat of artificial intelligence, I think what we're seeing on the threat landscape is the likelihood of criminals developing a next generation of malware capability along artificial intelligence. So we will have, I think, self-learning malware capability introduced into the cybersecurity defenses of some private enterprises or even governments. As I said, will self-learn as it reads the system from within. And that clearly is a concern. We should also be concerned about the cybersecurity dimensions of quantum computing and how they, in some scenarios, could overcome any password protection. And so the days of having a password-centric security enterprise may be soon over. That said, in both respects, artificial intelligence and quantum computing, there are many opportunities as well, of course, for the way in which we investigate crime. And so, as always, it will be a bit of an arms race between the law enforcement, government community and the criminals as well. And finally, just to touch on the specific question from Mrs. Vessel about where the threats are coming from, I think it's from this more professionalized cybercriminal architecture that I described earlier. In terms of geographies, I think it's a global phenomenon. There are major cybercriminal threats coming from India, from China, from Brazil, but especially from the Russian-speaking world. But it's difficult to actually isolate any particular region. This truly is a global phenomena, supported by this rather unregulated nature of the darknet in particular. I hope that between the three of us, Mr. Chairman, we have answered all of the questions. Thank you.
Благодаря и аз и се възползвам от правото си в последния панел да дам думата на съпредседателя Клод Мораес, който да го ръководи.
Thank you, Svetan. And that was a really interesting last session. Thank you to both commissioners and to Rob, and of course to the members. Excellent questions. So colleagues, this is the final session. I read a management book once which said, never begin a meeting or any session of a meeting at 4 o'clock on a Monday. They didn't actually say Monday, but they just said don't begin at 4 o'clock. They actually did say that. It's the time when you are sleepiest and most tired. So if you're feeling tired, it's not your fault. It's my management book's fault. And it's true. But this final session could not be more appropriate as a final session. Why? Because when the Europol regulation entered into force in May 2017, and the rapporteur is here, it identified two areas to strengthen Europol: the European Counter-Terrorism Centre, the ECTC, and the Internet Referral Unit. And we now see Europol as the core tasks of fighting terrorism and the prevention of organised crime. That's how our citizens see it. That's how the members of the European Parliament see it. So this final session is going to be concentrating on these core tasks of Europol and a kind of analysis. And to, of course, add to that, during this period, we, of course, then also had the appointment of a new security commissioner. So in this final session, it's appropriate that both of those colleagues speak to this final element, which is the fight against terrorism and the prevention of organised crime. So we're going to have both Commissioner King and Executive Director Wainwright speaking to us now for this final session, colleagues. So first, Commissioner King.
Thank you very much, Chair. And again, it's absolutely right that this subject is on the agenda because we are talking about core Europol business, dealing with some of the very important, pressing, transnational threats that we collectively have to deal with. As we said a little bit earlier in the press conference, member states and member states' authorities are and remain in the front line in trying to deal with these threats, whether it's serious and organised crime, cyber, or terrorism. But there is more that we can and indeed should be doing collectively at a European level to help and support those member states authorities in doing their job and helping to keep European citizens safe. We try and do that through a range of different activities, but one crucial element of that help and support is through our agencies, the network of our agencies. And Europol is an absolutely central agency in this fight against these threats. It has gone from strength to strength under the current leadership, and we are confident that it will continue to go from strength to strength under the new leadership. Part of reinforcing our collective effort against these threats is to show that what we're doing works, so that we have a virtuous circle of support from the member states, engagement with the agencies, that they do want to share information, that they do want to work together on practical cooperation because it works. And I have to say that Europol and the work that Europol have done is, again, central to showing that we can make a practical difference, not just a theoretical difference, but a practical difference to help and support to member states. As an agency, Europol may not have the power directly to make arrests or directly to launch criminal investigations, but it is absolutely vital in providing efficient and operational support to and between member states in the fight against terrorism and organized crime. And that was reaffirmed when last year we, from the Commission, carried out a comprehensive assessment of EU security policies. The role of agencies was praised, and in particular, the role of Europol was praised consistently by the member states. And I think that's incredibly encouraging. It doesn't mean everything is absolutely already 100% right. Doesn't mean that Europol has absolutely all the resources it needs. We still need to work to reinforce what we're doing in these areas, but it's very encouraging to know that we have such engagement from the member states. On terrorism, as we've already touched upon, the terrorist threat level across Europe remains very, very high. In a number of countries, not least the countries that have actually experienced attacks over the last couple of years, the threat level remains, if not at the highest level, then one level down. We have made progress on the ground against Daesh in Iraq and in Syria, and that is helpful, but we shouldn't for one moment allow ourselves to think that that somehow diminishes the threat from Islamist extremist terrorism. It does not. That threat continues to exist. It evolves and changes, and we need to be ready to evolve our response. A key part of that response is to seek to close down the space in which terrorists operate by making it harder for them to get access to money, to firearms, to explosives, by strengthening the controls and the rules around that, by making it harder for people to move around in the high days of the caliphate, making it illegal to travel to and from Iraq and Syria for terrorist purposes, to significantly enhance our collective information picture, including about who's coming in and out of our shared space. So as we were just discussing, we have sought to get the best out of existing information systems, to develop, where we agree, some new information systems like the entry-exit system and the planned European travel and authorization system, to plug some information gaps, and to try and make all of those information systems interoperable, that is, make them work together effectively so that those on the front line, policemen, border guards and immigration officers, can get the information they need, accurate, timely information to which they have the authority to access so that they can do their jobs. Europol has a role as an EU information hub on these matters, and it plays that role very well, and we want to make sure that it can continue to play that role as part of this wider work to build our interoperability. We've also been working to better protect our public spaces, which have been subject of a series of attacks, horrible attacks over the last year. That means bringing together cities, local authorities, but also putting them together with experts. And again, Europol have been engaged in that work. We need to reinforce the work that we're doing to prevent attacks by tackling some of the root causes, notably by tackling radicalization, both online that we've been talking about and in our communities. And Europol have had a key role on both dimensions through the Internet Referral Unit helping us to tackle online radicalization with the platforms, but also through sharing their expertise and experience with a variety of people who work in the community. That work to support Europol is going to continue, and the work that we're going to do to try and reinforce our security union is going to continue. In April, we will bring forward, next month, we will bring forward a package of new measures on combating terrorism, which will include measures on explosive precursors, firearms, terrorist financing, the security of ID cards, and better and faster access to electronic evidence. In all of this, we will want to continue the closest possible cooperation with our agencies and, in particular, Europol. The European agenda of security of a few years ago set up the European Counterterrorism Centre, as you said, Chair. And that centre has done invaluable work to help and support member states and to encourage them to work together and to share information. As Rob Wainwright said in the press conference, we are seeing greater member state engagement in that information sharing. There has been a significant increase, 30% increase, in the amount of information that is being shared across Europol's Siena mechanism. And there's also been a very significant increase in the number of requests from member states to Europol to help and support them in various investigations, in particular terrorism investigations. So all of that work has been very valuable. We want to continue to do everything we can to help and support the ECTC. The links between terrorism and organised crime should not be minimised. Serious and organised crime can help provide some of those means that I've just been talking about: firearms, explosives, money, fake documents, for terrorists to carry out their attacks. And Europol, indeed, in its reporting has underlined the links. The 2017 Serious and Organised Crime Threat Assessment particularly pointed to this. We, from the Commission side, remain committed to taking action also to help and support the Member States in fighting organised crime. Again, working very closely with and through Europol. Europol is at the centre of the policy cycle, which is the coordination of shared objectives and priorities amongst the Member States and the Member States authorities in tackling serious and organised crime. The current policy cycle runs from 2018 to 2021 and identified 10 priority areas. For each of those priority areas, there are operational action plans which, drawn up with Europol, need now to be followed up and implemented with the Member States. For example, in fact, the Commission suggested, Member States agreed, that the fight against illicit firearms trafficking should remain a key priority for the upcoming policy cycle. And I'm glad to say that Member States recognise, again, the help and assistance Europol has given them. The number of investigative cases against illicit firearms trafficking has gone up all across the EU. Europol regularly organises joint action days together with the Member States and other agencies, which have been very successful. In 2017, this kind of joint working led to very significant seizures of firearms and rounds of ammunition in various countries, as well as the arrest of around 1,000 criminal suspects and the initiation of around 600 investigations. So here is a concrete example of where working together, facilitated by Europol, can deliver results against serious and organised crime. Another key priority of the policy cycle is the fight against drug trafficking. The new EU Action Plan on Drugs, which runs until 2020, provides a strengthened response to the newly emerging health and security challenges in the area of illicit drug use and trafficking. And Europol, again, is at the centre of that work. Ensuring our citizens' safety means fighting crime as well as preventing it. Hence, the Commission welcomes the inclusion of crime prevention as a horizontal priority across the action plans in the current policy cycle. We have been funding studies, projects and networks aimed at developing and sharing best practices in crime prevention among the Member States and in fighting cross-border crime, and we will continue to do that. To conclude, we will continue to offer our full support to Europol and our other JH agencies in this work to keep our citizens safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. And let's go straight now to Rob Wainwright, please.
Oh, thank you. Well, I shouldn't perhaps repeat some of the discussion we had at earlier sessions, or indeed the words that Commissioner King just shared with us, but just to underline the point on terrorism, a complexity of a threat that we haven't seen before, drawn across a community of foreign terrorist fighters, but also many tens of thousands who are within our societies at home, the most enterprising use of technology, and this emergence, as Commissioner said, of a stronger crime terrorist network than we've seen before. I mean, that's important not least because it should tell us something about how we gear our response, that we cannot rely on rather traditional measures of fighting terrorism, which have overwhelmingly focused on the institutions and the intelligence community. We have to also embrace the broader capabilities of the police community, and for that I think Europol has a very special role to connect the two, and that's what we're currently focusing on. But in general terms, as the Commissioner said, a much better response in terms of international cooperation in Europe for information sharing. 3 times as many counter-terrorist cases last year than the year before at Europol, 439. It's a substantial number of counter-terrorist investigations that Europol was supporting in that year. For organised crime, drugs still being, in volume terms, the preeminent threat, as I said earlier today, trying to reinvigorate that by bringing better partnerships, recognising that most of the drugs that are consumed in large quantities in our societies in Europe are coming either from other parts of the world, of course, or are homegrown. We have a significant problem of synthetic drugs that are produced in Belgium, in Netherlands, in parts of the Baltic countries that are a real problem. And we're concerned, for example, about the terrible epidemic relating to methamphetamine in the United States and how that might come across to Europe. For people smuggling, something which was or has been the fastest growing criminal sector in Europe, certainly from 2015 onwards, when we saw the criminal community exploit a sudden opportunity as they saw it. The number of irregular arrivals in Europe in that year being 5 times as many as the year before, 1 million of them in total. It gave an on-the-spot new criminal opportunity, and we saw the ad hoc response to that. That's since settled down into a sizable criminal market worth at least 5 billion euros a year, dominated now, however, by not these individual criminals, but syndicates that are now running end-to-end operations to exploit these poor people who are making their way to Europe. And here we have made some considerable progress through the European Migrant Smuggling Centre established at Europol, identifying 70,000 suspects in this field operating in Europe currently, running a large number of operations. But we have some blind spots as well, particularly in our intelligence sharing. I mentioned Turkey earlier, and also the MENA countries, and that has to be the focus of our work. For the trafficking of human beings, also a bigger problem than I think many member states recognize, or at least give priority to. And here a somewhat connection with people smuggling, at least in terms of how unaccompanied minors in their many thousands have been part of this migrant population that have come to Europe since then, unaccompanied and therefore vulnerable once they are perhaps in reception centres to being picked up by criminals who will exploit them, maybe for illegal labour exploitation or even worse for sexual exploitation. So that's a concern. Also the trend, which is worth noting, I think, that of all the victims of human trafficking in Europe today, 2/3 of them are from the European Union. So this is not a problem so much anymore of victims coming here from Africa or Asia, but within our own communities, being moved from one part of the EU to another. There are very many other high priorities in terms of organized crime that get perhaps less attention than they deserve. The fake and counterfeit market, particularly as it's helped again in the technology space, is enormous. And by some estimates, the damage to the economy, to the brands of our businesses in Europe in terms of what we call intellectual property crime is estimated at around 85 billion euros each year. So it's an enormous enterprise. And for that reason also a relatively small dedicated centre has been established at Europol to help combat this. New in the policy cycle this year means we are taking a greater interest also now in environmental crime, especially in terms of wildlife and illicit waste trafficking, and also trying to bring a focus in other areas. I mentioned earlier also high priority investigations that Europol are always ready to support in, as we are currently doing in Malta and Slovakia. And in real terms, we are aided by the significant increases in our information sharing that I referred to earlier, and also by the way in which we can convert that information and data analytical capability into real operations on the ground. And what is most important here, I think, is the work perhaps of our liaison officer community, which are embedded in our headquarters. These provide the necessary operational link. They represent the authorities that do have the coercive powers that Europol doesn't. And it is them on the spot that collaborate with each other, that are sitting in the operational rooms each day and coordinating arrest operations, for example, across multiple jurisdictions. So it really is a very successful integrated team effort of Europol analysts, technical specialists, and law enforcement officers from that community. The largest centre in the world, 220 liaison officers from over 40 countries at Europol today, and a beating heart of our operational success, I would say. My last point is to repeat a point that I've made in other fora, which is how we also try to convert our information into understanding the strategic dynamics of crime so that we can undermine that infrastructure and have a long-term effect. And in terms of money laundering, here we still have a lot of work to do. We always talk about following the money. We always know that to hurt the criminal the most, we must take his assets away. Well, we're doing a very poor job of doing that, frankly, despite the fact that we have put in place such a well-developed regulatory regime over the last 30 years, despite the fact that we have significant legislation. The facts that we see at Europol, based on, I think, our very accurate understanding, is that we are collectively seizing 1% only of criminal assets each year. So the regime is not working well enough, and I think if we were to make any major difference to that, we would have a very telling effect on the ability of criminals to operate in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rob. And this is the final session, colleagues, I just want to mention that following this session, the co-chairs will just make a few announcements just to confirm some of the points of this morning, so that this is all confirmed. So please do stay for this. And also we have, again, a reasonably long list. Is it just 6 or will there be more? Okay, we only have 5. So if you speak for a couple of minutes and then, I know because one or two colleagues may be going now, so we'll have the 5 and then we'll make some concluding remarks about this morning's rules. So let's go straight away and up to 2 minutes, please, colleagues. So Mr. Jacques Bigot, please, from France.
Merci, Monsieur l'animateur. Merci d'ailleurs de l'organisation de cette journée extrêmement instructive et qui montre bien l'intérêt de notre groupe. J'avais une question pour Monsieur le directeur Wainwright. Vous avez parlé ce matin des informations qui sont venues vers vous. La base de données a été fortement enrichie, mais vous disiez que 85% des informations venaient de 5 États membres. Est-ce que nous ne devrions pas, et je m'adresse à l'ensemble des collègues, nous en tant que parlementaires dans nos États, pouvoir aussi interpeller nos gouvernements et leurs autorités sur la manière dont ils communiquent ou ne communiquent pas avec Europol. Et à cet égard, il serait peut-être utile que Europol donne des informations, non pas forcément publiquement, mais aux représentants désignés par nos différents parlements pour que nous puissions interpeller nos gouvernements. Ça fait partie aussi de notre mission et cela devrait permettre de faciliter le travail d'Europol. Et l'autre question, Monsieur le commissaire chargé de la sécurité de l'Union, avec tout ce que vous avez dit, est-ce que vous ne pensez pas qu'au-delà de la coopération entre les polices, il est utile qu'il y ait véritablement une mise en œuvre d'une stratégie européenne de lutte contre et le terrorisme et le crime organisé, et que cette lutte passerait par une amélioration des relations entre les parquets et notamment d'un parquet qui ne soit pas qu'un parquet financier entre les États membres, ce qui est à prévision pour 2020 pour certains États, mais un parquet qui soit aussi capable de lutter contre le terrorisme et le crime organisé. Si nous n'avons pas de meilleure coordination, nous aurons des concitoyens qui, à force d'avoir peur du terrorisme et du crime organisé, se replieront sur eux-mêmes et ne croiront plus en l'Union européenne.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Kevin O'Callaghan. Sorry if I've pronounced that wrongly, which is embarrassing given I'm British and I should know, but is it Kevin O'Callaghan, please?
I won't even Claude, but thank you very much. On behalf of the Irish Parliamentary delegation, I would like, first of all, to record our congratulations to both you and your joint chair, and indeed all concerned, on reaching agreement this morning on the rules of procedure for the conduct of business for the JPSG. Now, the critical focus of Europol on drug trafficking noted and fully encouraged and supported, and along with all of the other areas of address already mentioned by Mr. Wainwright, would he please advise if Europol is paying serious attention to the criminal activities of illegal tobacco marketeers and producers, and any role that legitimate or licensed producers may have in this illicit trade, a trade that impacts seriously on the economies of European Union member states, and not least as a result of the serious health consequences of sustained tobacco use. The illegal tobacco trade undermines the efforts of state governments to discourage tobacco users of their habit and to dissuade our young taking up this health-threatening practice. Your affirmative response would be appreciated. Goramahagat.
Thank you very much, and once again apologies for my mispronunciation. Next is Caterina Cinici from the European Parliament, please.
Grazie Presidente. Voglio ringraziare ancora una volta il Commissario King e il Dottor Wainwright per la loro presentazione. E devo dire personalmente che condivido quanto è stato detto dal Commissario King in ordine alla necessità di incrementare ulteriormente la cooperazione sotto il profilo del contrasto ai collegamenti, diciamo all'azione di contrasto ai collegamenti fra criminalità organizzata e terrorismo. Sappiamo che il terrorismo viene finanziato spesso attraverso il riciclaggio, attraverso trasferimenti, anche questi in qualche modo illeciti di denaro, viene finanziato, dicevo, dall'azione della criminalità organizzata, traffico di stupefacenti, traffico di esseri umani e così via. E allora io credo e chiedo quindi quali potrebbero essere gli strumenti per incrementare ulteriormente una cooperazione che sicuramente è indispensabile. E il dato citato dal dottor Wainwright, che soltanto l'1% del denaro provento di reato viene sequestrato, ecco, ancora una volta mi porta a chiedere cosa si può fare. È sufficiente solo un incremento della cooperazione fra gli organismi e le agenzie di contrasto o occorre immaginare qualcosa di più, qualche altro strumento ed eventualmente quale strumento può essere utile in questo senso? E sto pensando per esempio alla Procura europea nella sua attuale configurazione o nei possibili futuri sviluppi anche di questo istituto, di questo organismo per diciamo, includere l'azione di contrasto alle indagini, il coordinamento delle indagini sul terrorismo e sulla criminalità organizzata. Grazie.
Thank you. Ms. Karamanli, please, from France.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Deux questions qui concernent tout d'abord la première, la coopération d'Europol avec les autres agences de l'Union européenne. Avec quelle agence plus précisément avez-vous une étroite coopération? Pouvez-vous nous préciser comment vous avez organisé votre coopération avec Frontex? Plus particulièrement, vous avez évoqué un certain nombre de sujets tout à l'heure. Il n'y a-t-il pas un risque de chevauchement des compétences entre vos deux agences, Frontex, puisque Frontex affirme parallèlement qu'elle lutte aussi contre le terrorisme et le trafic d'armes? Et enfin, avez-vous aussi l'intention d'avoir des liens plus étroits avec les acteurs de l'action diplomatique de l'Union européenne qui peuvent également vous faire peut-être remonter des informations cruciales pour la sécurité intérieure de l'Union? La deuxième question concerne plus l'évolution des formes de coopération dont vous avez parlé tout à l'heure, coopération policière entre les États membres, puisque jusqu'à présent, la valeur ajoutée d'Europol semblait reposer surtout sur la qualité professionnelle. Vous avez évoqué des professionnels détachés, notamment les officiers de liaison provenant de chaque État membre, et qui facilitaient les contacts interpersonnels entre les différentes forces de police de l'Union. Il y a eu effectivement au fur et à mesure une massification des échanges de données via des fichiers informatisés et donc Europol a concentré ses efforts pour promouvoir un système standardisé. Est-ce que l'automaticité donc des échanges ne risque-t-elle pas de conduire à l'appauvrissement des données et à une perte en qualité puisque le facteur humain risque d'être mis en second rang? Merci.
Thank you. Mr. José Alberto Martin Toledano from Spain.
Sí, buenas tardes. Desde la delegación española entendemos que Europol, en su lucha contra el terrorismo y el crimen organizado, está haciendo su labor básica y esencial por la que nació. Y por eso quiero reiterar la petición que ya hizo nuestro compatriota Díaz de Mera de que es imprescindible apostar por un mayor presupuesto de la agencia. Desde España, la experiencia de la Policía Nacional y de la Guardia Civil en la lucha contra el terrorismo entendemos que es un ejemplo que hay que valorar y poner en colaboración con otras policías porque desgraciadamente tenemos mucha experiencia y agradecemos el gran valor que desde Europol se da al trabajo de la Guardia Civil y la Policía Nacional Española. En relación con lo que hoy hemos tratado esta tarde, quería formular dos preguntas. La primera es cómo se está intensificando o de qué manera podemos intensificar la lucha y prevención contra la radicalización islamista y también contra el regreso de combatientes del ISIS, que son una de las fuentes de peligro para nuestros países en materia terrorista. Y también la investigación de los nexos de conexión entre las organizaciones terroristas y también las organizaciones de crimen organizado, de tráfico de drogas, de armas, de blanqueo de dinero e incluso con algunos estados que apoyan y colaboran con estas organizaciones, tanto terroristas como de crimen organizado. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. And Mr. Antonio Felipe from...
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Allow me to ask a brief question on the prevention of organized crime. I understand the worry with terrorism and the need to fight and to prevent terrorist attacks. But I think that emphasizing terrorism, you should not forget other tasks that we have to face before the threats for democratic societies that we are also facing and that are also real. I'm thinking in money laundering and other forms of transnational economic crime. We know that the organized crime uses the legal financial system, legal financial institutions, and the tax havens to money laundering, to finance corruption, and to erode democracy in general. And the question is, what's your opinion about the level of cooperation between national authorities and financial institutions in order to prevent the economic crime? And finally, what do you think, do you think that the legal framework of the state members of the European Union is appropriate, or if we need some improvements on that subject? Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mr. Metz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I think that the creation of the ECTC was of utmost importance, and of course it still is. A very good initiative, and I've learned today that the engagement of the member states to share intel and information is increasing, is improving. So actually we should seize this moment to maybe even be more ambitious. As Commissioner King said, we still need to reinforce also our working methods. After 9/11, the NCTC was created, and they shared or combined or merged information of 17 different agencies. But what's even more important, the intel, actually the outcome of the information, was also transmitted to local police officers and so on. My two questions: one, do we actively cooperate with the NCTC? And two, do we have the same ambition, which means do we also want to provide all the necessary intel and information also to our police officers in the street so we can prevent, for instance, terrorist attacks? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, Mr. Popov from Bulgaria.
Благодаря, уважаеми господин председател, уважаеми господин Уейнрайт, дами и господа, ще бъда съвсем кратък. След военната загуба на терористичните организации на територията на Сирия и Ирак, а и вие го казахте, тероризмът очевидно ще заработи с нови инструменти. Един такъв инструмент са кибератаките, и то по отношение на критичната инфраструктура, електроцентрали и електропреносната мрежа. В САЩ е извършен такъв експеримент и за няколко дни специалисти са успели да пробият киберсигурността на тази критична инфраструктура, което разбира се довело до подобряване на защитата на тази инфраструктура. В тази връзка има ли или ще се предприемат ли стъпки за обща европейска защита, протокол за защита на такава критична инфраструктура от кибератаки? И тук не става въпрос само за страни членки на Европейския съюз, а и за съседни страни, например Западните Балкани, защото една такава атака в трета страна, съседка на Европейския съюз, неминуемо ще доведе и до тежки последици за самия Европейски съюз. Благодаря ви.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, you may have noticed that Commissioner King had to leave. This was an error over flight times, and he asked me to apologise profusely on his behalf. This was not intended, and he also indicated earlier that he would answer any questions in writing if necessary, and he does apologise. So our apologies for this, and Rob was kindly will answer, I think, the questions that were specifically put to him. Rob, if you could do this, please.
Firstly, can I thank Mr. Bigot for an excellent idea, which is that we could use more the delegates of national parliaments to reach the national authorities, because yes, it is a constant challenge of Europol to reach all of the authorities, to make sure they understand the value that we can bring and the requirements that we have. And also he suggested that maybe we should provide even specific advices per country to each parliament. I think, Mr. Chairman, also what we have here is, at the JPSG now, is a network of parliamentary contacts in each member state that Europol can use in that way. So I will be following up, our teams will be following up with maybe utilizing this network with requests for you to help us at the national level. I thank him again for that idea. For Mr. O'Kalin, I can indeed positively affirm that we are investigating those criminal groups that are involved in illegal tobacco smuggling and indeed any other major issues that are supporting that trade, including from within the sector. It's part of what we call excise fraud. It has long since been a major part of our work. I did not mention it earlier simply because I was seeking to summarize the work that we are doing, but that is part of our work. Now, Ms. Chinichi and Mr. Felipe both asked about the anti-money laundering regime and how it could be improved. Mr. Felipe asked especially about whether or not the work of the financial institutions are reliable enough. Well, the regulations are such that they are under a threat of being fined if they do not carry out the necessary procedures, and therefore, as we know, many of the banks have been fined many billions of dollars in the past. So that has forced the banks to invest heavily in running their compliance regimes. There are tens of thousands of compliance officers that are now employed by the major banks in Europe that are running these regimes at a cost, we think, globally of something approaching $20 billion. So it's an enormous regime. It's just not very effective. And that's because the design of it is out of date. It's based on the idea of high volume transaction monitoring. Every single financial transaction going through a bank must be checked. And the banks run algorithms to monitor all of these, and these produce so-called alerts. And of these alerts, they all have to be checked by these compliance officers, and some of them finally reach the threshold of what's known as a suspicious activity report, which goes to the law enforcement teams. Now, let me tell you, only 5% of all those alerts checked by the banking compliance officers reach the grade of even being reported to the police, only 5%. So 95% of the time, they're looking at noise. And even then, of all the alerts that are then reported to law enforcement, only 10% of those are investigated further. Partly because the financial intelligence units don't have the resources, partly because also the quality, frankly, of the intelligence produced is very low. And that's why we get only a 1% return rate finally. It's an enormous effort to produce very little. And instead, we should be much more clever in the way in which we use the intelligence of institutions like Europol to start at the top and not at the bottom. Because we know at Europol who are the many hundreds of principal money launderers in Europe. And I want to use those names and share them with the banking authorities and ask them to check the financial transactions relating to these people, not everyday citizens who are just moving money between different savings accounts. And we are prevented from doing that because the nature of the regulations in protecting data privacy and banking secrecy means that we cannot do it. And there are particular restrictions on intelligence sharing across borders. So a simple solution would be to create, alongside the network of national FIUs, a European FIU based at Europol. Not instead of the national ones, but in addition. So that immediately provides the legal gateway to share this data and do something which, of course, we should be doing, which is to monitor the flows of illegal money across borders. This was brought forward by the European Parliament as part of the latest anti-money laundering directive proposal and has been rejected by Council. So you ask what is a simple thing to do. We gave a very idea of what a simple thing was to do, and it was supported by the European Parliament, but unfortunately not supported by other EU institutions. We find it very frustrating at Europol that these things happen and that we remain, therefore, in the territory of only being 1% successful at fighting financial crime. Ms. Karamanli asked me about cooperation with Frontex. We have to be careful about a possible overlap. I agree. But there are very major differences in the respective mandates, of course, and especially in regard to capabilities to collect and process personal data, which is the core task of Europol. It is not the core task of Frontex. And insofar as they can process it through their work, they have to pass it on to either a national authority or Europol within a maximum of 3 months. And they do not have core analysis systems like we do. And I think, therefore, that makes sure that we can work more in harmony rather than duplicating the efforts. Mr. Metsu asked about the lessons of 9/11. I think we're still learning that. And, of course, we do not operate within a federal system in Europe like the United States. So it is more difficult to develop a similar system. But we are following it, and we are on the road, I think, to implementing a more cohesive response. And in the meantime, absolutely cooperating with the United States authorities very much indeed. If I didn't answer some of the other questions, maybe it was more for Commissioner King, Mr. Moraes, but that's enough from me, I think.
Thank you very much, Rob. And I've noted the questions and comments addressed to Commissioner King. I'll be seeing him next week, so I will convey these to him directly. And you may get a response from him. So thank you very much, Rob. So colleagues, now we come to the final session. We just want to, both of us, make some conclusions. If you could just be patient for one moment longer and we can do this. Mr. Svitanov is just going to begin. This will be very brief, but please remain for this. Mr. Svitanov, please.
Уважаеми колеги, приключваме в времето, в което бяхме заложили днешния дневен ред. Аз благодаря на всички за експедитивността и за конструктивния диалог, който се получи. Разбира се, бих искал да се върна към първата точка от днешния дневен ред. Това е благодарност към всички делегации, които взеха участие в днешното парламентарно измерение, за да постигнем пълен консенсус и да приемем процедурните правила за парламентарен контрол на Европол. Искам специално да благодаря на държавите, които имахме кореспонденция с тях през последните месеци и по-специално за отговорите, които ни изпратиха. Това бяха Германия, Франция, Полша, Румъния, Словакия, Швеция, Дания. И благодаря на колегите от Дания за разбирането и вчера, когато имахме възможност да говорим с тях, стигнахме до един консенсус, който може би Клод ще го обяви официално, но искам да кажа, че работната група, която ще работи до есента на 2019 година, ще можем действително да търсим и някакви допълнителни решения за актуализиране на процедурните правила. Искам, разбира се, да благодаря на всички тези 207 акредитирани участници в днешния форум, защото без тях нямаше как да се случи това, което имахме като обсъждания. И такива теми като многогодишното планиране на Европол 2019-2021. Това, което е свързано с киберсигурността, разбира се, с борбата срещу тероризма и организираната престъпност, превенцията, която трябва да има. Тук, разбира се, искам да оставя отворена темата, която поставих в един от панелите, когато и Wainwright обяви, че действително Великобритания след излизането си от Брекзит, ние ще се лишим евентуално от един изключително сериозен доставчик на информация, която може да допринася за гарантиране на сигурността на Европейския съюз. И в тази посока бих искал да поздравя всички национални парламенти, защото с тяхното активно участие и с дебатите, които водим, ние няма да направим компромис със сигурността и всеки един от нас ще защитава възможността да ползваме тази информация и да споделяме заедно с Великобритания, защото съм убеден, че това ще бъде новото предизвикателство пред всички нас, а знаем, че всеки един разчита на информационния поток, на обмяната и на споделянето на информация в файловете на Европол. Искам да гарантирам от страна на българската делегация, че участвайки активно в тройката, ние ще изпълним ангажимента си по всичко това, което приехме като процедурни правила и съм убеден, че с всичко това, което приключваме днешното заседание, разбира се, след като и съпредседателят Клод Мораес, искам още веднъж да му благодаря за неговата съпричастност, както по естонското председателство, така също по българското председателство. Предполагам, че и към колегите, които от Австрия ще поемат от втората половина на 2018 година, но мога да ви уверя, че всичко това, което направихме днес, все пак трябва да благодарим и на всички доброволци, които участваха активно, за да може вие като гости да се чувствате комфортно и разбира се да благодарим и на преводачите, които имаха сериозна работа в днешният дебат, за да може всеки един от нас да участва активно и да може действително да нямаме тези езикови бариери. Заповядайте, господин Клод Мораес, и още веднъж искам да благодаря на Диас де Мера за неговия съществен принос за всичко това, което договорихме, на Роб Уейнрайт, и да благодаря за това, че на днешната среща присъства и Катрин Дебол, която е бъдещият нов директор на Европол. Убеден съм, че от този дебат и от всичко, което говорихме днес, няма да има абсолютно никакъв проблем да продължи тази приемственост и да продължим заедно за решаване на проблемите и търсене повече финансиране за сектор сигурност от националните парламенти и когато се разглежда многогодишната финансова рамка за новият финансов програмен период на Европейския съюз. Благодаря ви още веднъж.
Thank you very much, Svetan. If you could hang on for a moment longer, we did agree just to summarise very quickly some of the things that we had agreed earlier on today. So for those delegations who had, of course, worked very hard to get to this agreement, if you could hang on for 1 second and I'll just summarise. Of course, first of all, to express my gratitude alongside Mr. Svetanov and Mr. Diaz de Mera for reaching an agreement on the JPSG rules of procedure. As mentioned during the debate, some points will need to be addressed by the presidential troika in the coming weeks. And if I can say just very briefly, first, the presidential troika will set up a working group with the Danish delegation in order to come up with recommendations by the review of the rules of procedure in October 2019. One man is left behind in the Danish delegation, so you've heard it. That's good. Secondly, the importance of linguistic diversity and the related funding needs for Europol to be able to provide documents in other languages will be mentioned in the co-chair's summary conclusions as well. Third, the presidential troika will need to develop guidelines for the procedure for questions to Europol, and it will also need to start a debate on which topics the JPSG could focus for establishing subgroups. Fourth, in more general terms, it is worthwhile to reiterate that the review of the rules of procedure in October 2019 is a general review. And finally, colleagues, we have heard interesting contributions on the Europol multi-annual programming document. I said earlier that delegations will receive a letter in the coming weeks inviting you to send detailed written contributions ahead of our next meeting, scheduled to take place in Brussels on the 24th to the 25th of September 2018. And of course, we've agreed this with our Austrian colleagues also. I invite our Bulgarian, Austrian and Romanian colleagues to get together soon and start the work that the JPSG rules of procedure entrust to the presidential troika. And as with Mrs. It's getting late. Svetanov has said, we wish those presidencies very well. So it remains for me to thank the national parliamentarians who worked so hard between the two meetings to achieve all of this consensus. I'd like to thank my fellow members of the European Parliament. They don't be thanked so much. Thank you for being here and contributing so well. The national members of Parliament, to all the staff and volunteers, but finally, what is it? It's okay. And finally, finally to the Bulgarian presidency and to our hosts. Really, I think it's a very well-organised meeting, and I really am grateful that we got the rules done. That was the main thing. Thank you very much. And we're now on a secure footing. And finally, on an emotional point, I would like to say thanks, Rob, for all your work. That's what I know. You've only been thanked about 50 times. And I'll probably see you next week. But thank you. Europol is what it's all about, and I think you have all done extremely well today. So thank you very much, colleagues, for your attention. Thank you, Mr. Tsvetanov. And a good journey home to all of you.